So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Kedro showcases. We're really excited to have you here, and we have a lot of things to update. So this is today's agenda. So first, we're going to talk about the new features that we added in the 0.18 releases, and also what we are going to do next. And then we will also want to give some shout outs to our community since they've been doing some really cool works. And additionally, we want to talk about some of the upcoming changes about Kedro datasets, and we really want to get some feedback from you. So during the sessions, feel free to drop any questions in the chat. We will answer them at the end of the Q&A sessions. So before that, let's meet the team. So myself, I'm Nok. I'm a software engineer in Kedro team. And I guess we can start with Yetu and Ivan, and then the rest of the team can just follow.
Hi, everyone. I'm the product director on Kedro. It's lovely to meet you and very excited for today's session.
Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm the engineering lead for Kedro, and yeah, lovely to meet you, everyone, and I'm glad to see you in this Kedro showcase. Passing over to the rest of the team.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nero. I am a product manager on the Kedro team, and it's great to be here with you all.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mero. I'm a software engineer and tech lead for Kedro framework. Great to see you all.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rashida. I work as a full stack engineer in the Kedrovis team.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sajid. I work on Kedro framework as a software engineer.
Hi, my name is Yannick. I joined the Kedro core team 3 months ago as a software engineer, and I'm so excited to be here today.
Deepyaman?
Yeah, I'm Deepyaman. I'm a machine learning engineer working on the Kedro framework team as well.
Cool.
And hey, everyone, I'm Tynan. I'm the tech lead for Kedrovis. My webcam is broken, but hopefully you can see a little picture of my face right there. So thanks for being on the call.
Hey, everyone, I'm Andrew. I'm one of the product designers on Kedrovis. Yeah.
So let's get started. What has been added since the 18 series? So first we have the Python 3.9 and 3.10 support. We also added the micro packaging workflow, which allows users to share their Kedro codes across different code bases. We also make a lot of work to improve the interactive workflow, which means it's easier to use Kedros in Jupyter notebooks now. And we also added some new hooks so that people can add more custom behavior in their Kedro pipeline. We also introduced the Autodiscovery pipeline, which makes starting a new Kedro project easier. And we also have introduced Reach to our logging, which makes all the Kedro logging much more readable and beautiful. And on the Kedrovis side, we also added new features, including you can now export run from this. That means you can have CSV, Excel, like export from the experiment tracking features. We also added imagings and plots in experiment tracking so that you can now compare things other than metrics, but also plots and different stuff. And last, we also have a new website for Kedros. And we are also moving to Slack, so there will be a more details announcement later. And yep, I'll pass it to Deepyanan.
I think you're passing to me. Yeah, thanks, Nok. So I'll be briefly going over some of the latest things we've introduced, starting with the way we've improved the interactive workflow. So the new recommended way to interact with Kedro in IPython and Jupyter is through the Kedro IPython extension. The extension launches a Kedro session and makes available all the useful Kedro variables like catalog, context, pipelines, and session. We also provided the reload Kedro line magic that reloads these variables when needed. For example, an instance where this might be useful is if you need to update the catalog following some changes to your data catalog. We also have Kedro Jupyter Notebook and Lab providing custom Jupyter kernels that has all the Kedro IPython extensions preloaded and launches a notebook with the kernel selected. And lastly, we have a point here about Kedro IPython extension also working with Databricks, which is an awesome new addition as well. Another cool thing we've added, implemented since Kedro 0.18.3 is pipeline Autodiscovery. When we now do a Kedro new and create pipelines, it will automatically be registered to register pipelines. This is thanks to the new find pipelines function we've implemented. This makes getting started with a new Kedro project much easier and lowers the onboarding penalty for new users to Kedro. Finally, the last thing I'll be covering about is rich logs. So what is rich? Rich is a powerful library that enhances the visuals of a terminal, making it more readable and useful when debugging. It does this by pretty printing and enabling syntax highlighting. So you'll be happy to hear that Kedro now uses the rich logging handler to format messages, and we use the rich traceback handler to render the exceptions. And we're not done with it yet. We have many more things in the pipeline, so do keep an eye on that and do stay tuned for that. With all that, I'll be handing back on to Nock. Thank you.
I guess Rashida or Makai is taking this.
Yeah, it's me. So hi again, everyone. So one of the features we recently shipped on Kedrovis is the plot integration with experiment tracking. So now if you click on any of the runs in the experiment tracking view, you not only get the run tracking information, but you can also see the plot information associated with that run. Also, you can also compare plots for different runs, up to 3 runs, if you turn on the compare runs feature. Currently, we support 2 types of Kedro datasets. So it's Kedro Plotly dataset and Kedro Matplotlib writer dataset. So you can see both the interactive Plotly plots as well as the static Matplotlib PNG plots. If you want to set this up on your Kedro project, you can do that. You can visit our Kedro doc. So we have a documentation on it. It's under the experiment tracking section. So you can go through it and set it up on your project. Also, if you want to play around with this feature, we have it on our demo website. So if you visit demo.kedro.org, we have a demo project and you can play around with this feature and see how useful it could be. Secondly, I wanted to add that we are working on a next set of features for Kedrovis, and we would love to have your input on it. So if you would be interested, we have user testing sessions that we do. And if you're interested in joining them, please reach out to the team. Next, I wanted to talk about the Kedro website. So earlier this year, we launched a Kedro website, and this has a lot of useful content on it, especially for people who are new to Kedro. So it has a getting started section, it has on why we should use Kedro section, and so on. So if you have colleagues or stakeholders who are not familiar with Kedro and would like to learn more about it, then please, this is the right place to point them at. So please do that, and also visit this website and give us your feedback on what you think. I think that's all for me. Over to you, Nock.
I guess it's Yannick.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's my joy to talk to you about Kedro on Slack today. So hopefully it hasn't escaped your attention that in the last few months, we've been migrating people to our new community hub on Slack. You know, we love speaking to our community. It's very important that we keep everything in a central place. Slack is where we're going to do this. So we've built this new Slack. You can join it using the QR code here on this page. Do it by November 30th, because that's the last day that we'll be supporting any other way of communicating with us being like the core framework team. The core Kedro team. And yeah, access to a full community on Slack starting now, but definitely by November 30th. So we can go to the next slide where I'll talk a little bit about what the community has been up to. So Kedro is a very useful product, but that last mile, putting it into production, that's where the community really shines. So we have a lot of different plugins built by a lot of different people. We just want to explicitly mention our top stars today, Galileo Galilei, MLflow, Neptune AI team for Neptune AI, and the Getting Data team for the other plugins you can see on this page. So that effort has just been absolutely outstanding, and really improves Kedro for all users. Amazing to see, and we just want to use this slide and take this opportunity to thank everyone. Last thing, there'll be a Kedro swag giveaway associated with the survey, so you can look in the chat for that. I think we'll cover that briefly at the end as well, so thanks.
Great. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is basically a change that is upcoming. So we're still working on this and would love to get your feedback before we roll it out. Essentially, we're going to change some things to the way datasets work. And for those of you who are new to Kedro and don't really know yet what datasets are, it's basically Kedro's way of dealing with input and output of your pipelines. And together with the data catalog, datasets basically allow you to read and write data of all these different formats like Pandas, Spark, and other things. They're also the part of Kedro that has had a lot of contributions from you all, from our users in the open source community. So yeah, it's very much a core component of Kedro. It's always been part of the framework as well, as part of extras. So it lives in Kedro's extras. But we now want to move them into a separate Kedro Dataset Repository. Yes, and the reason why is basically we are focused on reducing existing sources of breaking changes in Kedro so that we can eventually achieve a stable framework, because obviously we want to release a Kedro 1.0 at some point. And a primary reason why we're proposing moving these data sets into a separate package is to reduce breaking changes associated with dataset dependencies. In the past, we've had issues that are, for example, we couldn't add Python 3.9 and 3.10 to our framework for a very long time, even though they were already out. And the main reason why we were held back was that we had to wait for data sets to all be supported as well, because we rely on dependencies that didn't all update to the latest Python versions. And so we had to wait as well. Other things that happened was, for example, we couldn't provide new functionality to our data sets because our framework has a more conservative versioning scheme. So we aim to only ship breaking releases once a year. But of course, sometimes you would get really great new features in data sets that are breaking, and then you would have to wait for a very long time until you could use those. So our solution is basically we want to move datasets into their own package, Kedro datasets. This would mean that Kedro becomes more modular, and it would allow you to upgrade only the Kedro datasets separately from the Kedro framework. So for example, in production, you can get newer versions much faster without needing to modify the full Kedro template. And then you would also be able to leverage those newer data sets sooner and use them outside of Kedro as well. So what does this mean for you? For your new workflow, you would have to change a couple of things. So first of all, when you need data sets, at the moment you would do a pip install Kedro specifying the data set you need. Because we're moving them, you would in future be installing directly from Kedro datasets. So you would change the pip command you execute. Second change would be around imports. So your imports would change from, if you import datasets directly into your code, they would change from going from Kedro extras to the Kedro Datasets package. And then the final change would be whenever you make contribution to datasets, those would have to go to the new repository instead of the old one. Because this is a breaking change, we will introduce the changes step by step. So we will already create a new package, but for you, nothing will change. You will still be able to just install anything from Kedro. And then in 0.19 is when we actually remove them. So you can expect changes happening, but nothing breaking for the time being.
Yeah, thank you, Meryl. So this is the time for any feedback or questions. Feel free to just ask it or just drop it in the chat. Just checking the chat. I think earlier there was a comment about rich logging on remote executions. Yeah, so feel free to drop feedbacks on our GitHub or just our Slack channels. We'll try to work on it and see how we can improve it.
I guess while we're waiting for more questions, we can talk about some of the stuff that is upcoming for Kedro. So you'll see that there's quite a few projects across both the framework and Kedrovis as well. For framework stuff, some of the projects that are being led right now, one by Meryl in particular, is one in configuration. So for a while, we've been collecting a lot of complaints about the way that Kedro handles configuration. It will range from things like, for instance, we support a credentials YAML file where we would expect you to put your credentials, but a lot of people want to use environment variables to use their credentials. So that would be one issue. To things like our templated config loader is very popular, but we don't natively enable that for all users. So some of the changes we'll be making in that workstream, which is a massive theme, have been led by some research, which was conducted with users, I guess, across the world. And you will see us implementing some of the changes. So please do head through to our GitHub repo and comment on some of the issues. Some of the issues look like, for instance, adopting a megaconf as one of the ways to enable some of the use cases or functionality that you want. So please do that. And then the second one is we're just finished synthesizing Databricks research. So we were trying to work out what is the experience of our users while they use, because there are quite a few, when you use Kedro on Databricks, what is that experience like? What are common workflows that everyone is doing? And then equally, how can we make it better? So is it a Kedro on Databricks issue? Are these Databricks issues? And we'll be working with the Databricks team to actually work out how we best fix some of those pain points as well. So you have like the most optimal and best experience while using the two together. And then on Viz, I think Rashida alluded to this one as well. So we are working on some improved functionality for experiment tracking in particular. The next upcoming feature will be something around the lines of you being able to plot your experiment metrics. So each data science experiment that you have will have a series of output metrics, and you want to be able to see what those values look like over time. See the charts of maybe your R-squared value changing over time, or equally the ability to select the best experiment when you look at all your metrics together. So really want to support that functionality. So that one also has gone through quite a bit of user research. We're in the user testing phase, and I think we're going to start build soon. But if you do have any feedback for us, once again, please reach out to us either through the GitHub repos for both Kedro and Kedrovis, or talk to us on Slack or GitHub discussions. There's quite a few ways to reach us.
Just want to mention, like, if you want to get the swag, check out the links posted in the Zoom chat. I think there's a few links posted. Please also join our Slack channel. So we're moving to there, like, I think we will shut down the Discord like by November. So just do 2 months, but please join us. If there's no questions, I guess. Okay, just saw a question came in now. Is there a plan to add more validation to configurations? Does anyone want to answer this one?
I think that's a great question. So it's not on the direct priority list yet, but it's definitely, I think it's something we have heard before. If you have thoughts on that, have a look at our milestones as well, where we have a whole configuration work stream. The config work is going to be quite big and is going to take a long time, because you can imagine there's different parts of it. As yet to mention, we'll be focused on credentials. Parameters is another part where we'll be looking at. And then I guess validation would be yet another work stream as a subpart of configuration. We would love to hear any more pain points. We've already done research, but we know that these things change over time as well. So if you struggle with anything, do reach out either on Slack or GitHub, and we'll make sure to take into account any feature requests we get as well around config.
Thanks, Meryl. Yeah, if you have more like feedbacks about like configuration, how to do the validation, like please reach out to us and just talk to us on Slack or GitHub. Like we really love to have your feedback. Another questions came in. Any front runners on the config front? I've heard lots of potential approach in the past, data classes, pedantic, Hydra.
Yeah, I guess to answer for the time being, our approach is going to be to start using OmegaConf. So that is indeed YAML. We are, of course, introducing these changes step by step. So first you won't notice any major differences yet, but this will open us up, for example, doing credentials through environment variables and lots of other things. It also has good merging strategy for your files, etc. But again, if you have more thoughts on this, do please respond to the open outstanding issues or create a new one if you have any thoughts around this.
Great. There's another questions about the documentation which relate to the deployments on single machine. Are there any plans to extend this with more example like Spaceflight 1?
Lorenzo, maybe a follow-up question would be, what type of deployment patterns would you like to see on single machines? If you want to write in the chat, you don't need to speak to us.
If it's okay, I will speak if you can hear me now.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so one of the aspects I think might be a bit lacking is the fact that the tutorial is quite clear with very simple situation or very complex one. So maybe a clusters or Kubernetes and other type of deployment. But for my use case, where I will probably need Docker because I'm working on a server that is for my university, I would like to see like some actual deployment, so some example on how the all infrastructure could be put on. So from the creation of the different folders for the catalog to the actual running of the Docker container itself on a machine.
This actually does make sense. I suspect we do support like single machine deployment in the docs, and it's not in space flights, mind you. But I see we link you straight through to the Kedro Docker plugin, which probably has more instructions, but maybe there's a way to rework the docs so it's a little bit more clear. But let us know if this actually solves some of your problem, and we need to.
We can talk it on the Slack.
Yeah, sounds good.
One thing to add is that we're definitely thinking of ways to add more and easy deployments to different targets, and I think it's been really great to see that the community has taken up in doing plugins for different things like we showed earlier, and we'd love feedback and contributions because the ultimate goal is to have Kedro being easy to deploy on as many environments as possible.
Cool. I guess there's another question. I guess this one is from Meryl again. So how are we going to keep track and about the breaking changes, Kedro and Kedro datasets, and if it's become incompatible, like how do users know about it? Like, yeah, basically how do people deal with these breaking changes like with Kedro datasets is coming up later.
I think that's an excellent question. So the way we envision it is that our dependencies would now be very different. Like at the moment, of course, they're all packaged in the same requirements file. But when Kedro datasets go into their separate repo, anything dataset related would go there. Actually, most of our dependencies are dataset related. So they're very specific libraries to treat things like, SQL dataset or TensorFlow, which are not really relevant to the core framework at all. If there is a situation where we are using a dependency in both, I guess that's your question, right? If any Kedro core dependency become incompatible with Kedro datasets, yeah, we will of course make sure that the Kedro versions we have do work with the Kedro datasets, and we inform you very clearly which version of Kedro is compatible with which version of Kedro datasets. Because the way we envision it is that Kedro will still take this fairly slow release process when it comes to breaking changes, whereas Kedro datasets will get more breaking changes over time. So we'll make sure that it's very clear to you which versions of Kedro you can use, which versions of Kedro datasets, and wherever it's possible, we'll obviously make sure they're backward compatible. So older versions of Kedro will be able to support more versions of the datasets. Of course, there might be a situation where the new dataset is so different, but at the same time, I think it will be very niche for that to happen. And most of the things that we've seen in the past were very specific, especially, for example, when we wanted to add 3.9 Python 3.9 support, it was literally just 1 or 2 datasets. So we'll make sure that out of all those datasets, you can use most of them with the latest Kedro.
Awesome. We have more questions coming in. The next one is about experiment trackings, like in what way the experiment functionalities is better than, like, for example, MLflow. Like, what was the reason like Kedro need to have like a separate experiment tracking features?
I can talk a little bit to this, but I think other people might want to as well. I don't think there's one is better than the other. It depends a bit on your use case. I think the main reason for Kedro to support this natively was to make that workflow easier. So you go from using the Kedro core framework for your data sets and just being able to then visualize that in Kedrovis without having to install another plugin. Of course, there's users that can install whatever they need, and they're free in taking in third-party libraries. But sometimes people work in more restricted environments, and that's where it's better if they can just use one tool to solve more things. And we also saw that experiment tracking, or keeping track of your runs and the data associated with it, is something that people like to do. And we thought, Kedrovis has a lot of opportunity to show more than just that pipeline graph. And that's why, we started to expand into experiment tracking, because it was a fairly easy switch from us. Like, we haven't had to change a lot to the framework. Of course, there's been a bit more UI work. And that's the main reason. We're still very happy with the Kedro MLflow plugin as well. So I think it's really just what's your use case and what are the things that are most important for you, and which features are more important as well. But yeah, any feedback you have, do let us know.
Maybe just to build on some of Meryl's comments. So if you really find that you just have need for an experiment tracking tool and don't really need things like model registry or model serving, then for sure, the Kedrovis experiment tracking, I guess far exceeds actually the functionality it would have found for MLflow tracking in particular. But if you do have need for the other, I think, parts of MLflow, model registry, model serving, maybe even projects, or are relying on MLflow because of its integration with Databricks, then it definitely makes sense to be using MLflow in that specific use case. So yeah, it definitely depends on what you want to do and what scope of functionality you need.
Thanks, Yetu. So next is the interesting question: is Kedro planning on support streaming?
I guess I can take that one. I can see Alex has left though, so he might not be able to hear the answer to that question. We haven't seen Kedro being used much with streaming, but it is true that we have seen an increase in that happening. So in the next, 3 months, in the next quarter, we will try to explore what kind of use cases there are and then decide on what to do. But we don't plan anything to add like specific streaming support. So if you manage to get it to work with streaming, that would be great. And also we would like to hear from anyone in the community how they're using Kedro with streaming, so we can learn more on different patterns and eventually decide like what to do in order to simplify that process. But for now, that's not in our focus. We'll mainly focus on the things that Mero mentioned, like Kedro datasets, configuration, and experiment tracking. Or like I might have missed something, but yet you can jump in.
We never forget Databricks.
Yeah, and then definitely Databricks and deployment in different environments. I think this is the priority now.
Cool. Next questions: will Kedrovis become interactive? For example, you can execute runs from there.
Well, maybe a follow-up question for you is like, what would you like to do with the functionality? So is it just about you being able to do a Kedro run from the Viz interface? Everything. I guess maybe log a GitHub issue for it. Yeah, we can maybe look into seeing, I think, exactly what you want to do. And then, yeah, look at what could potentially be possible. I know we generally have stayed away from features that make us look like an orchestrator, because Kedro is often confused in that space. Like people are like, oh, it's Airflow. And we're like, no, it's not. I know obviously having the run button obviously from Viz takes us more into that territory, but I think being able to maybe narrowly scope what you're trying to do will make things easier. So just log a GitHub issue for us and we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, we've been constantly toying with the idea of like making it more interactive, but we want to be very purposeful in the way we do it, because if we just add one small thing to make it interactive, that would add a huge complexity for one small thing. And at the moment, the communication is only from Kedro to Viz. It's one way, so you'd never have like the other way, and this is by design. But if we have some very compelling use cases and enough of them, we might move in that direction into making it more interactive. But again, for us to do that, we would like and definitely welcome some ideas from the community. We would like you to put up your suggestions, gather support across the other community members, and this will inform what we need to do in order to meet those use cases.
Great. Next questions. Any guidance for when support for data catalog credentials by environment variables will be available?
Oof. It's very hard to give a concrete month or anything, but I would think it's going to be part of the 019 series, which we aim to release next year, since 018 came out almost the beginning of this year. And we aim to keep breaking releases to once a year. If, however, it's possible to do this in a non-breaking change, you will get it earlier. But that's something we need to investigate in a bit more detail. But it will come for sure.
And there maybe is a workaround for using the template. I believe it's a template config loader to load environment variables through that. So there is a way now. If you do not know, you might be able to use that. I don't know, maybe if we want to point direction and docs or something for James.
Yes, I will get those up.
Cool. I guess that's all the question we have. I think I should have covered all the questions. So I think that's probably the end of this sessions. Thank you everyone for joining us today for the showcases. Yeah, see you.
Thank you so much for coming and have an awesome rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you very much, team. Thanks a lot. Happy to see you all.
Great to have
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.